Hello everyone, Studlord here, and today we're going to be having a look at all of the LEGO ideas currently sat in review. Now these aren't the ones that have just recently achieved support, that is going to be the next video, the ones that are up for the May review. No, these are all the ones that are in the current review, the ones for which we shall see a finalist revealed very shortly. I'm going to give you some predictions and thoughts on each of these sets, so get commenting below, let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me, and the same with each other. Of course, be polite wherever possible, or alternatively, let's just rip each other a new one, because that's fun too. Of course, as always, make sure to like and subscribe as well. With all that said and done, let's dive in. Okay, so our first one is Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think this is a good time to just explain how I'm going to be thinking about these particular sets. You see, this I don't think would ever get chosen by LEGO. I don't think it would get made. Simply because whilst there is obviously a big appeal, naturally it's reached the 10,000 supporter threshold, as all the ones in this video will have, it's still quite niche. Whilst a lot of people will remember playing Yu-Gi-Oh! As a trading card game and probably watch the cartoons, etc. while they were on, it's not going to appeal, I don't think, to a huge amount of LEGO fans. And ultimately, when LEGO is going to be choosing what sets to produce, they are going to be thinking commercially, how many people are going to buy this? I mean, obviously this came out a few years after Pokemon first started. It never achieved the sort of success that Pokemon did as a trading card game, and obviously all of the games and films, etc. that came off the back of it. And as LEGO don't have the licensing for Pokemon, you could argue that this stands sort of quite a good chance as something that they could put out. But whilst it's certainly nice, has a lot of brilliant colours going on in there that would be fantastic for, frankly, mock building, I don't like it as a display piece. Now, perhaps that's because the subject matter doesn't mean anything to me personally, but I still think that it's not going to be something that the majority of LEGO fans would actually be bothered about having on display. So nice design for what it is, but I certainly wouldn't predict this being chosen. Now, it's a similar story for our next option, the greenhouse. This, personally, I'd much prefer. I like the look of it a lot. I think it's a nice little design and would be something that I would enjoy having on display. That said, it is a fairly small set, and whilst LEGO certainly don't tend to choose massive ones for producing as an ideas set, there is a happy middle ground. I think this would be too small, and obviously off the back of the Botanical Garden set that they did for the Friends theme, we have also got the LEGO Ideas set coming up of the Botanical Gardens. Whilst the greenhouse is by no means the same thing, I think that it's coming just a little bit too close to be actually considered, so I doubt that this will be chosen in the review phase. The next one is the Spartan Helmet, and this is a very cool looking thing. I like it a lot, and I think it would look absolutely fantastic on display. Again, it'd be brilliant to get these pieces in these colours, and, you know, in my personal opinion, I think it blows most of their helmet collection that LEGO's done out of the water. It's just a really cool looking thing. Once again, though, I doubt that it's something that they would actually put into production. It's just very different from anything that they've chosen in the past. So again, it's not to say that I don't think this is good enough, because actually I do. I really like it, and I'm not at all surprised that it got to the 10,000 supporters needed. But just again, whilst LEGO do from time to time push the envelope on things, they do tend to sort of play it a little bit safe with things that aren't completely different. And whilst yes, they have done masks before, and of course the helmets, this is so different from anything that they've previously done. I wonder if they would perhaps be a little bit wary putting it into production. So not so sure about this one. Let me know what you think in the comments. I like it a lot. I doubt that they will choose it. The next submission is the minifigure Gumball machine, and this is just a fantastically fun idea. I think this is brilliant. Something that is, of course, really interactive to play with, as well as just being a fun, cool display piece, as well as just having a good amount of nostalgia attached to it. I think it's just a fantastic little idea. Sure, it might get a little bit old constantly using it. You know, would you just have all your minifigures built on display with none inside here, or would you do part and part? Once again, I think it's a little bit too out there. Doubt that LEGO would actually choose this. Just my sort of gut feeling, if you like. But, you know, credit where it's due to the designer. Cool idea. I think it would be fantastic to have as a LEGO set. Doubt that we will be seeing it anytime soon. Our next submission is the working Lego bicycle, and this has been done fantastically. First of all, it just looks absolutely brilliant. Whilst it does say working, I should point out that this at under 1,000 pieces is not something you can actually sit and ride on before anybody goes and puts that in the comments. But the attention to detail here is absolutely fantastic. This is a brilliant one. Now, I know that this is going to be popular with a huge amount of people. For me, it's not. I would not want to have this on display, but that's basically because it would constantly remind me that instead of exercising, I'm sat down building Lego while stuffing my face full of food and drinking. Now, as that has been my big life choice, I think that this would throw that into disarray, and as such, isn't something that can garner my personal support. Whether or not you agree with me on that is dependent on whether you wish to out yourself as a bit of a slob like I am. Best perhaps just to say that I think this has been beautifully designed with incredible attention to detail and is very well deserving of being considered as being turned into a set. Just don't expect me to get on my bike and start racing down to the store to pick it up if it is. Okay, next up is Disney's Phineas and Ferb, Perry the Platypus. I'm probably going to show my age here. I've got absolutely no idea what this is. I mean, I've Googled it, and apparently it's something that came out in 2007. But yeah, it bypassed me completely. So, by the fact it's achieved this amount of support, I can only assume that a lot of people know the subject matter and are keen on it. Not being one of those, however, I simply can't comment. Looking at this, though, dispassionately, just as a set on its own, it certainly looks very fun. I like the different combinations. The amount of different ways that you can maneuver this to display it, it would certainly be on the edge in that regard of things that LEGO have released in the past. You know, I think we all know that there's very few sets that LEGO have actually done which you can put into good positions without them, you know, having a tendency to fall over. There are some, certainly, but this would be perhaps stretching that a little bit. Look, personally, I don't like it. I'm sorry. I think it's not particularly good looking. I wouldn't want this on display. However, like I admitted, I know nothing of the subject matter. Moving on then, we come to Red Dwarf and the Sleeping Quarters, and this is an absolutely awesome set. Given what I just said about the previous submission, the irony does not escape me that because I was a fan of Red Dwarf, this means something to me where those who have never seen it, it will mean absolutely nothing. Nonetheless, the level of detail that has gone into this particular design is just absolutely brilliant. I think full credit where it's due to the designer of this. It would be very well deserving if it was chosen. Sadly, once again, I very much doubt that it will be. Most of the sets that LEGO have done in the past based off of specific shows haven't actually sold that well. So I think that they will be... I think they will be very wary of actually putting something like this into production. So sadly, my prediction is that this won't get chosen, but it is a shame because, wow, what a detailed and brilliantly designed set. I think it's great. Well done. That brings us to our train bookends. Now, a quick note here. I've done previous videos specifically looking at the upcoming potential trains that we've got in LEGO Ideas, as well as medieval sets. Now, because of that, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time on those particular ones because I very simply don't want to rehash things. I will put the links to those videos in the description below. So if you want to watch those, of course, please go ahead. To sum this up though, whilst I like the idea, not that many people actually have books on display anymore and need bookends. And quite frankly, if LEGO were going to choose a train to do, I would want one that stands a proper chance of being motorised and to go on display. This, in that regard, is not what I would class as a proper train. So whilst it is a cool idea and a lovely little design, not one that is for me. Moving on, we come to New York Corner, and what a good looking modular build this is. This would look fantastic next to the lights of the jazz club or the boutique hotel. It's got a brilliant vibe going for it. Love the use of colours, all the little details in here. It's just brilliant. It would be super to get this. I just think it's been done so well. Would it be chosen? No, I don't think so, because there are ones coming up that I certainly think stand a much better chance of making the cut. But that's not to take anything away from this, because I do think that it's been done really well. Super little design, looks fantastic. So once again, my prediction is it's not going to be chosen, but that's not to take anything away from the designer, because you know what? This looks great. And that brings us on to this, the Rolls-Royce Phantom. And it's a very similar situation in my mind to to the last one. This has been beautifully designed. I really like this. The real life version is a thing of magnificence, and it's been translated here into Lego absolutely superbly. The bricks used, the colours used, everything here, it is a massive tick in the box for me. I think it's brilliant. Now, there have been rumours floating around that Lego actually had another Rolls in the pipeline. Whether or not there's any truth behind that, we've yet to see. Irrespective of that, though, I don't know where I stand on this, because personally, I think it's great. I would very gladly buy this, build it, have it prominently on display. But if Lego were going to choose a vehicle to do, would it be this one? I genuinely don't know how many people would buy this. Maybe it would be absolutely loads, but I'm equally thinking, is it just myself that's being swayed by this? Because, you know, I remember going to different county fairs and shows where these would be on display and looking at them and sitting in them. If you haven't had that experience, you know, it might not mean anything to you. So I don't know. I'm quite torn on this one. I'd like to see it. I doubt, though, that it will be chosen. Next up, we've got the Retro Arcade. Gives me sort of Pizza Planet vibes from Toy Story a little bit, the part of the front here. Really nicely designed. Love the colours, love the details. Think this would be an absolutely super set, and probably is one that they would consider. You know, just thinking of the different diner sets that Lego have done before, the ones that are coming up, along with the sort of gaming attractions. I don't think this is too similar, but at the same time isn't so out there. Let me know what you think, but, you know, I like it. I think it stands a pretty good chance. Once again, I don't think it's going to be chosen simply because of some of the ones we're, you know, going to be getting to a little later in the video that would beat it out. But apart from that, you know, really good design. And things like this, I know designers can put things on the likes of Rebrickable and obviously sell their instructions, etc. I think, you know, unless Lego have changed it, I know that in their T's and C's, once you submit an idea, you're basically signing it over to them. You're not actually allowed to then go and put it up for sale anywhere else or make the instructions available. They might have changed it, you know, they might have taken that out of their T's and C's, but certainly last time I looked, that was in there. And that's a bit unfair because it means designers can't actually put things up for sale. And, you know, that's a shame. I think it would be great if they had the opportunity, even if something wasn't chosen, where a designer can actually then go in and, you know, sell their design. I think that would be a good idea. Let me know what you think below. Anyway, moving on. This one, the Western River Steamboat. Wow, a lot of time and attention has gone into this. There's a good amount of detail here. Decent looking thing. Not sure about some of the colours. I think, personally, colour choice here, maybe it's the pictures. Looks just a little bit drab, not contrasting enough. I don't like that side of it. But, you know, the detail, though, really good. And I think this actually in person, if you got it on display, would be fantastic. Now, just thinking, though, about all the little pieces that are involved here, how big it actually is, I don't think this would actually make for a very good Lego Ideas one, simply because of the cost involved. I think you're going to have a lot of pieces going into this, probably going to become too expensive, not very viable, so doubt that they will choose it. Not too keen on the colour combos myself, but do like all the detailing in there, and the overall idea, really nice. Then we've got our classic tractor, and this one, I'm just going to say straight out, it's too simplistic to be chosen. There's no way that they will do this, I don't think. If they do choose this, I will eat my socks. I'll even do a video doing it. But you know what? That's not to say that I don't like it, because actually I do. I really like tractors. I don't know if I should admit that nerdy thing to say, probably, but I do really like tractors. I like the way that this has been put together. It's actually exactly the sort of thing that I would like. I would buy this and I would put it on display. And, you know, clearly I'm not alone, again, because it has reached the support, but would it actually be chosen as a Lego Ideas set? I just can't see it happening. I can't see Lego picking this. I think they'll go for something else. You know, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm not now, because I really don't want to eat my socks and have to film myself doing it, but we'll see. Then we come on to our modular heritage museum, and it's a really nice looking thing. I love the different design up here. That's funny with a little cat up there. The colours used, it's just all good. Even the little car outside, fantastic. A lot of time and attention has gone into this, so just want to give full credit to the designer. I really like it. I think it's been done very well. That said, we've had the Natural History Museum, obviously, from the Icons line, technically being a 2024 set, although it was released in December of 2023, and it's scratches the itch for me in terms of a museum. I think that's been designed beautifully. To be honest, I prefer it to this. So yeah, I don't think this would be chosen. If it was, it's not something that I would buy simply, because I've got the Natural History Museum, which for me is better. That's not to say that this isn't good. I think it is really, really good looking thing. Just not different enough for me. Okay, the Twin Towers. What to say about this? Look, there'd be very, very strong arguments for and against doing this set, and to be frank, that's one argument that I'm not going to get in the middle of, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm just going to say this. No way Lego makes this. They're not going to. They didn't do the Las Vegas skyline set because of the Mandalay Bay being in it after the attack there. So there's just simply no way that I can see them making this. To be honest, that's all I'm comfortable about saying on this particular set. So, next up, Alfa Romeo, another cool car. Now, personally, I much prefer the Rolls Royce that we were looking at a few minutes ago. I think that had quite a bit more about it, nicer detailing used. That said, very clever, the use of bricks to get all the different shaping here. That's been well done. And again, whenever it comes to vehicles, it's very personal opinion, isn't it? Because, some people will hate that Rolls that I like, and obviously very much enjoy this. I would say anybody who ever owned an Alfa Romeo would want this, although considering that anybody who's ever owned an Alfa Romeo has probably been involved in a nasty breakdown and or accident, they might not want the reminder. So there we go, we'll have to wait and see. I doubt that'll be chosen. Next up, we are up somewhere without a paddle. This is once again a really good set that I think Lego will be a little bit withdrawn on actually doing, just again purely based off of how well other sets that they've done along a similar vein have gone down. Love the detailing in here though, look at it, really well done. Although to be frank, with all of those small pieces, I can see myself being like a bull in a china shop trying to put this together. It would all just get knocked over and go everywhere. So probably not one for myself in that regard. Do love the detailing though. Another one that's a fantastic submission. We've then got the Simpsons. To be fair, this is really good. It would be fantastic to actually get this as a set. The Simpsons sets that Lego have done are, just crazily priced now for the most part on the secondary market. So it would be nice to actually have the option of getting one and paying a reasonable price for it. Is it something that they would choose though and revisit? I doubt it. I doubt that they will go back there, but boy, it'd be great fun if they actually did. Guess we'll have to wait and see, but I doubt they'll do it. Then we have the Flying Scotsman, and I reviewed this thoroughly in my other video, so do go and watch that. To sum it up though, I think it's fantastic, brilliantly well done. Anybody who wants to try and buy an Emerald Knight on the secondary market will know how much it costs, which is basically as close as you can currently get. A proper working Flying Scotsman, I mean, come on, this would just be brilliant. And it's for that very reason, the fact that I want this, it's for that very reason that Lego just won't do it. The ones I like, they don't make. It's as simple as that. Shame though, we could do with a really amazing train set being added, and this would be such a strong competitor for it. Next up, you better believe it, it's the vintage toaster. And this is super. I mean, bearing in mind that they're bringing out the retro radio, I mean, come on, a vintage toaster? That's awesome. I would love to actually have this on display in the kitchen. Super idea, really well done. I mean, I like the way the different bricks have been used. This could have obviously been extremely bland, effectively, from this view. But actually, the way the designer's done it just looks really good to me. Obviously you display it from that angle, which is even better, but the whole thing, beautifully done. Not a stud in sight, it's just super. And I love the bread to the toast, that's brilliant. I think that this is, again, a bit too niche. I doubt that Lego would do it, but that's not to completely rule it out. They've not released things overly dissimilar themselves in the past. Bit of nostalgia attached to it. Although I doubt they'll do it, I equally wouldn't be surprised. I think it's just a fantastic looking thing. I really do like this one a lot. Now we have the Temple of Abu Simbel, and this is one, let's just say I wouldn't want it to be made. Now that's not to say that I don't like it. I think that this is a great feat of designing. It has taken a lot of effort to actually do this, so, incredible credit where it's due. I wouldn't want it because, do you know what? I love the Colosseum build because it means something to me. That said, I hated putting it together. It was just so much of the same color, trying to find pieces, trying to put it together. It was a horrible build. One I love having on display now it's done. Horrible to put together, and I can just Maybe I'm being unfair. Let me know in the comments. I can see this being the same thing. It's not as big, but it's still a lot of pieces. What was it? 3,000 pieces? This is a big set. It's going to be expensive. A lot of small pieces that go into it, all of the same color. I just don't see this being an enjoyable build, quite frankly. So really well done. I do think it's a fantastic design. Super, super idea. Brilliant detailing. I just personally would not enjoy putting this together, I do not think. I think it would be too big, therefore too expensive, and I suspect that Lego will probably think the same thing and therefore wouldn't do this set. Next up, we come on to this, the Red Bull Formula One car, and this is a super looking one. Really like the design here. I think it's fantastic. I doubt very much Lego would choose this. They've very much got their own Speed Champions line. Obviously, do pretty impressive builds like this in the Technic sets as well. So if we did see something like this, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do, it would be under Lego's own thing. They would not do this as a Lego Ideas. I'm not going to be cynical and say that they would take any idea on here and do something almost identical. Just because a lot of people think it doesn't mean that I'm going to say it. But anyway, I just know they're not gonna do this. Next up, we've got this good Ogles Garden, and wow, a lot of design that's gone into these. These flowers? I think I was going to say flowers or plants, and we got flowers. Well, these flowers look really good. These two over here in particular, quite frankly, look better than quite a few in Lego's botanical line. But it is because of that botanical line that, once again, I don't think they're going to choose these for Lego Ideas. I just cannot see it happening. They're going to release things under their botanicals line. Those that like them will buy them from there. I don't think that they're going to bother doing this under Lego Ideas. Really nicely put together, though. I like my botanicals. I would very happily have this on display. But yeah, doubt that Lego will choose it. Then we've got the marine life, and these have been beautifully done. Love the concept. Colours just epically designed. There are some pretty strong rumours, though, of Lego having some marine-based sets in the pipeline. So again, if those are true, no way that they're then going to do this. That said, if those rumours are false and there isn't anything in the pipeline, these would be a really super one to consider. We've obviously had the insect collection. These would be pretty impressive to have next door. Really like the concept. Moving on, we come to this one, and I mean, look, it's really clever. Great idea. It'd be super to have this out of Lego. Unfortunately, you're not obviously going to be using it the grand majority of the time. It's just going to be on static display looking like this. And whilst the overall concept is fantastic, this, when just static, is a load of black pieces. And because of that, isn't going to make for a very good looking display. So once again, love the idea, but looking at it practically, I'm trying not to be biased in this. I don't like it. I think just having it statically like this is almost ugly. When it's in movement, absolutely fantastic. Every day, yes, please, but looking at this practically, no. And ultimately, whatever Lego would stick as a price on this for the actual pieces used would be probably pretty stupid. So I don't think so. Then we come on to WreckIt Ralph. Has it been 10 years already? This was a really fun one. I think the movie was absolutely fantastic. And to be fair, good looking set. It would be great if Lego actually did do this. There's an awful lot going on in it. Probably a bit too much going on in it, actually. This is exactly the sort of thing when you get this kind of great detailing that once it actually goes through the ideas process, it sort of gets slimmed down into something that probably wouldn't do it justice. So yeah, I don't think that they'll choose it for that reason. I think they'd have to make too many changes that it would probably lose what it is. But that's a shame because you know what? Fantastic design. Really, really good idea. Like it a lot. What I do not like is this. Okay, look, I've spent too much of my life in Ikea. Every time I go into this shop with the intention of spending a small amount on a picture frame or a scented candle or something like that, I end up coming out having just dropped about 600 or 700 and I'm getting a new sofa or a bed or something stupid like that. I've lost too much money in this shop. I don't need reminders of it in Lego form. In all seriousness though, again, really nice design. Obviously, colours, brilliant, big tick. Love the nice little details. This would be really funny to have, Obviously, the Bricklink designer program, we got the Lego store for. It would be really hilarious to have this next to it. I doubt this will be chosen as a Lego Ideas one. You know, it's the sort of thing I think Bricklink would do really well, but I doubt it'll get chosen as Lego Ideas. In all seriousness, it is a really cool one, but equally seriously, yeah, not for me, because I genuinely don't want reminding of how much money I waste in Ikea. Then the next one is the vintage service station, and look at the car here. Well, to be fair, all of them, but especially here. Beautifully, beautifully done, and yeah, love the way that the service station has been done too. It's just awesome. I think, unfortunately, obviously, it clashes with your normal city lineup in the way it looks, so it's probably going to look a bit out of place if you try to put it next to that. And again, I think there are ones to come that are a bit better, that do stand, you know, more of a chance of actually being chosen. But I do like this a lot. I think it's been done beautifully well. Some really nice detailing going on throughout. So again, credit where it's due, super design. Okay then, on to the next one, and we have the Italian Riviera. And if you've ever been, then this is very evocative. I love the use of colours in this one, and there are some wonderful little details throughout. It's just been thought through very nicely. And this is the sort of build that I think does stand quite a good chance of being chosen. Now, again, I don't think that it will be, purely because I think LEGO aren't going to choose sort of a generic scene set of buildings for the overall winner that they're going to produce. There's been quite a strong lineup of submissions for this particular review period, so again, other ones to come I think are going to be much nearer the sweet spot for them, as it were, but this is the sort of thing that wouldn't surprise me. It has been really nicely done. It's not too specific, you know, to a particular theme, and I think would be very popular. So for me, first one I think that would go on to a bit of a short list of actual potential ones that they could choose. Let me know if you agree with me on that below. That said, I don't think that it will be the one that we see winning out overall. Moving on from that, we come to our pirate treasure chest, and I adore the pirates theme, and I really like this concept. The idea of a treasure chest you can open up to reveal a little map of the landscape, it's really cool. I think though, two things. Brilliant idea as it is. One, I doubt LEGO would do something like this. Also, as much as I would love to see something pirate related, and I do think this is cool, I genuinely do, I don't really want it to be this. You know, I would love to see more minifigure scale builds. You know, the Pirates of Barracuda Bay, that was a fantastic ideas submission. Would love to see more along those lines. This, not doing it as much for me. That aside, I do love out-of-the-box ideas, no pun intended, but I think LEGO would probably be concerned commercially on how well this one would actually sell, and obviously for that reason, I think that they wouldn't risk putting it into production. Then we come on to NASA's Space Launch System, and I'll keep this very brief. We've obviously got the Artemis Rocket coming out as an Icons in May, in fact. Only a couple of weeks away from as I'm filming this. So, unfortunately, great idea as this is, it's not going to be chosen. Just far too similar, so unfortunately, we can rule this one out. Designer's done a really nice job, but they are not going to get this chosen. We then have Queen Elizabeth II, and it's a fun little concept. Obviously, the dogs need to be corgis. It'd be good to get Corgi Moles. I think the idea, though, is really fun. The design itself, pretty cool, and obviously living in England, this set does mean something to me. I think it would be a lovely little homage from LEGO towards her incredible reign. Whether you like the monarchy or not, you really shouldn't argue that she dedicated all of her life to that. It was, you know, just a very incredible reign. That said, obviously, if you're not living in Britain, if you're not in the Commonwealth, you know, is this really going to mean that much to you? I'm sure it will to some, but equally, I think there's a lot of people that this probably wouldn't mean that much to, and therefore, again, pretty unlikely that LEGO would choose it. That's just my feeling. What I like even more is the big boy locomotive. Again, covered this in my trains video, so won't rehash it. Great little design though, lots of attention to detail. Few people put in the comments of my previous video that because of its size it would have difficulty going around the track. The designers basically thought that through in the way that it would work, so I know it's still probably not going to be the easiest thing, but you know, it has been addressed. Quite frankly, I would like to see it done just to see how well it works. That said, something of this size, you know, and scale, it's going to be quite expensive. There was obviously a lot of, you know, unhappiness, shall we say, over how the Orient Express was done. So I do think that train fans are a little bit sceptical, to say the least, of any other LEGO ideas coming out. And it's a big shame that that confidence has been knocked because, you know, if they did do this, I think it would be brilliant. I would love to have it. However, I do suspect that Lego, if they did choose this one, would have to make, well, not have to make, I think they would choose to make quite considerable changes, some of which understandable perhaps in order to get this into a reasonable price range. But in so doing, I think that this could probably quite easily get spoiled. So perhaps, as much as I would like this one, it's better that they don't do it. Shame to say that, really. Next up, a quick shout out for this one. We obviously already had the previous Red Bull submission, but I don't want to do this particular designer the disservice of skipping over theirs. It's very good as well. However, for the same reason as I mentioned before, I just simply don't think that Lego would ever do this as a Lego Ideas. If they did do something with Red Bull, it would be for their Speed Champions line or Technic, and it would come out under those. I don't think that they would do it with a fan designer. And for that reason, I'm going to say that this, unfortunately, doesn't stand a sensible chance of being chosen. Then we have the Trojan Horse. I wonder how many minifigures are hiding away inside this. Love the concept. Nice little bit of history, myth and legend all mixed together here, and it's been really nicely designed. I mean, look at the texture, you know, that's gone into this. Unfortunately, as well designed as this is, it's a very big set with a lot of pieces in it. I think it said 2,700 pieces. You can see the scaling. This would be expensive. I think it would have to be scaled down, and that would probably ruin it. It's also, as much as I do like the colours and the way that it's been done, it is, you know, perhaps lacking a bit of contrast in that regard. Might not be to everyone's taste because of that. It is a difficult one. I think it's a fantastic idea. The idea itself is something that Lego probably likes. They would probably look at this and think that actually it's well worth considering, but not at this scale. I think that it would be made smaller, less pieces, and unfortunately it would lose what it is in the process. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't choose it, because actually it's the sort of thing I can see them going for. However, I think they'd have to change it quite significantly, and that would spoil it a bit. And then this one, this is fun. Disney Pixar's Lamp. Fairly simple design on the face of it, but actually been done really well. Quite a small little set. Shouldn't be too expensive. Fun thing to have on display. I think this stands a chance. You know, again, I'm going to rule it out as being chosen because I think that there's ones to come that would be better suited and are probably going to be the thing that Lego chooses. Nonetheless, it's a neat little idea. I think this would be super fun to have on display. I'd buy it. Really good submission. Another one I think that they probably would look at and consider. There's some of these, let's face it, Lego are just going to look at and immediately go, nope, there's no way that we'll be doing that. I think they'd probably consider this one. Don't think they'll choose it. Don't know if Disney would want them to, but like the design, good concept. Okay, now look, the next four are all submissions for Taylor Swift's Lover House, and I really don't want to go through all four of them. I'm sure you don't want me to either. I'm just going to say this. There's actually another one in here somewhere as well, further up. There have been so many submissions to do with this. Lego are going to have to sit up and pay attention to it. You know, when this many different submissions all get supported, they're going to sit up and pay attention. That said, are they actually going to do this? I don't know. I think there could be quite a few issues with licensing and, you know, arranging things to get this turned into a set. I think it would become quite expensive. Let's just look at what they did with the BTS set. I know that you're comparing apples and oranges in a way, but at the same time, that did really poorly. Going to be very wary about doing any of these, quite frankly. So yes, they will definitely have to pay attention to it, but I think there's a little bit too much red tape for those, so I suspect we won't be seeing them. That said, so many submissions, I could easily be proved wrong. Anyway, moving on, we've got this one, No Man's Sky. Now, this is a game, again, I'll admit that I've never played, so I don't have any connection to this personally. Please do let me know in the comments your feelings on this, obviously, if you have played it. I think it's a great looking spaceship. You know, the engines, they look fantastic. The wings, I don't particularly like the look of, but then it may well be a really good, accurate representation of how it appears in the game. I don't know. I think, though, considering how many sets Lego has obviously already brought out this year and is still bringing out related to the space theme, whether it be in City, whether it be in Technic, Icons, etc. Obviously, Star Wars, you know, can't have to count that as well. I just really can't see them picking this. There's too many other things that they've got under other licenses that are space related. I doubt they're going to go out and choose this one. Then we've got the chameleon. How cool would this be if it could actually change colour when you had it built? That would be amazing. Sadly though, in the static colour, although it's a fun little idea, wouldn't be too expensive, so decent little build. I don't know what the scaling of this would be compared to the insect collection, but if it was quite a bit bigger, that would be funny if you put it next to the insects, so it looked like it was going to prey on them. Now, I do like the parts usage. I think that it could do with some other colours in here, a little bit bland looking as it is. And given the fact that we've obviously had those insects, we've had the kingfisher, you know, if Lego's going to do something like this, again, they're not going to do it, I don't think, as an ideas set. It'll come out, you know, under their own theme. So personally, I don't like it as much as some of the other submissions, just my feelings, but also very much doubt that Lego would pick this one to do. Then we come on to this ScoobyDoo and the Mystery Machine. Now, I really like this. I would love the idea of a buildable mystery machine. Obviously, we've had it before on a much smaller scale, and for that reason, question whether or not they would do this if they were going to go back to ScoobyDoo and the license, which I'd love them to do. I'm just not sure that they would choose to do this. I don't know, I'm torn. I really like it. I'd love for them to do it. I want more Scooby-Doo stuff. I want more sets. I want them to bring it back. Is this what they'd choose to do it with if it happened? Personally, I just can't see it. So just thinking this through unbiasedly, don't think that they would choose it. Lovely design though. I'd very much like to see it done. Okay, next up, Subnautica, another game that I haven't played. I'm not a massive gamer, I must admit. When I was younger, yes, but not anymore. That said, this is a beautiful design. Quite different, in fact, from any of the other ships that we've seen before. You know, this is a bit of a cross between a blimp and a missile in its shaping. Got some super detailing on there, nice use of colours, especially at the back here. It just looks fantastic. I do really like this one. But sadly, again, same as I've said before, even though this has got some great displayability and obviously playability as well, love the fact, you know, that it comes apart like that, I just don't think that Lego is going to choose anything space related at the moment. They've invested too heavily into their own sets. They're not going to choose this. That's just my gut feeling. You know, I could be completely off base. Tell me, what do you think in the comments below? I just can't see it happening. I cannot see them choosing anything space related. But that's not to take away from the design, because it does look really cool. We've then got the Christmas Theater, and sadly, it's a not dissimilar story. You see, Lego usually just tend to stick to their own designs when it comes to winter scenes. That's not to say that they wouldn't be influenced by this. But although this has been really nicely thought out and has some lovely details, can't see them doing it. It's quite a big set as well, 2,000 pieces, 15 minifigures. Again, if they chose it, they're going to shrink it down. It's going to lose the charm that it has. And I just don't think they're going to choose a winter village sort of scene for this. They're going to want something that's more seasonless, if that's a word. So, cool little concept, but not one I think that they will spend that much time thinking about. Okay, Asterix and Obelix. I love this. I think it's fantastic. I was a big fan of the comic strips. I like the films that they've done as well. I would really like to have this in Lego, so much so that, again, this is one where I'd like it if the designers were allowed to actually just sell the instructions directly through Lego. That way, you know, they would at least get a cut, they'd get some recognition. We could mock build this easily. That would be really cool. And seriously, something that Lego genuinely should do. Like, they can still take a cut, but, you know, anyway. I really like this design. I really like the subject matter. Again, I think licensing could potentially stand in the way of this one, a bit of red tape. It's exactly the sort of thing that I can see them doing. It's about the right size. I think in that respect, it would go onto the short list of ones that they would consider. But yeah, licensing, the red tape behind that, I think that could very well be the sticking point for this one. But yeah, cool design. Really like it. Now though, moving on, we come to Tailspin Sea Duck meeting Seagull, and this is a really nicely designed set. I think there's a lot of time and effort that's gone into this. It looks brilliant. I think it would be a fantastic display piece. It's a large one though. It's about 3,000 pieces, which is going to make it pretty large and again, fairly expensive, I think. So whilst Lego has certainly not been shy about bringing us expensive sets recently, I think for an ideas one, they're not going to choose something this big. And actually, this is one that would be really quite hard to scale down at all whilst retaining what it is. It's a shame because, you know what, it's exactly the sort of thing I can see them going for. This would go really well on display. It's got, you know, something about it. It's not too dissimilar from other things we've seen from them in the past. I like it. I do think it would be too expensive probably. Now then, here we are, the landscape photographer, and this is one of the first ones that I think is going to stand a real chance of being chosen. It's not based on any particular licensing that's going to require Lego to go having to make partnerships. It means that the cost could potentially be lower. It's not too niche. It could appeal to quite a wide range of people. It's a good looking thing. I'm thinking as well how they've done the family tree. Size-wise, I can imagine them making this not dissimilar. I just think it's ticking sort of the right boxes again when Lego are looking at this. It's a good looking thing. It's not too big. It's not got too many pieces. It's got a fairly wide range of appeal. They're not having to form partnerships in order to do it. I think this stands a very good chance, actually. It's not my favourite. I do like it, but it's not my favourite. But this is one of the ones I'm going to call out now and say I wouldn't be surprised if it is chosen. It's definitely on the shortlist. Moving on then, we come to this, Coraline, the Pink Palace, and this is an animation that, again, I haven't seen. Apologies, but, I can't have watched everything. My initial, dispassionate thoughts, therefore, are that I really like all the detailing on the sides. I think that's pretty amazing, actually. The roof, I'm not so keen on at all. Really don't like that. But, that could easily be remedied. The detailing down here is absolutely fantastic. Is this going to appeal to a wide range of Lego fans? I mean, ultimately, if you're a fan of the film, yeah, you're going to want it. If, like me, you've never seen it, it's not going to mean anything. It's also 3,000 pieces, which again is just too big and would be too expensive. Whilst the show may well have many fans, and a lot of those may also be Lego fans, I still think that it's probably just too niche, and therefore just isn't really going to stand a chance of being chosen. Now, that brings us on to this, the Muppet Theater. I absolutely adore the Muppets, and obviously with Disney now owning Jim Henson's creation, and Lego obviously having an agreement with Disney, it is something that we could see them do. I think in that respect it stands a good chance. There are obviously massive amount of fans. Lego has done the CMF series of the characters before. It would be great to get some more of them. Now, I actually used the Friends Theatre School set to put the Muppet CMFs in and basically turn it into a Muppet Theatre of my own. Having an official one, I mean, it would be cool. To be honest, I'm quite happy with what I've done, so I don't feel the need for this. And I think that anybody who does want it could do exactly what I've done and just buy that Friends Theatre. It's not bad. Yeah, sure, it doesn't say Muppets on the outside or anything like that. It's not going to, but it's still pretty cool. You buy the CMF series, you get your characters. I don't know. I feel like as great as this would be, the design itself probably does need some changing. It stands a good chance of being considered, but as we've already had the characters, I just doubt that Lego would actually do it again. Now we come on to DreamWorks Shrek Swamp, and this is one that I definitely think, Shrek should be done as Lego. I'd love to see Shrek in Lego. There have been other submissions before. I don't personally think that this is my favourite of them. There's certainly a lot of good stuff about it. It's just some of the other ideas, submissions for Shrek, I think I prefer. That's very much just personal taste, though, so need to put that aside. And looking at this seriously, what's the likelihood of Lego choosing this as a set to put into production? Well, here's the thing. Obviously, Lego has agreements with Universal. We're obviously getting new Despicable Me sets. There's been quite a few difficulties in the partnership between Lego and Universal, even just recently with those Despicable Me sets. I don't think that either of them are going to be too keen to do anything together. Well, no, that's an unfair thing to say. I think they'll be very careful about what other projects they do together. Would they therefore give this the go-ahead? I don't know. Reading between the lines, I think that there's a lot going on behind the scenes, if you want to spend a little bit of time Googling and having a look into it, that would make this quite unlikely. So, moving on then, we come to the Stilt House, and this is another one that I think probably is going to be strongly considered by Lego. It's not based on any particular IP that's going to require licensing. That always makes things easier for them. It's not a bad size set, perhaps a little bit small actually, but then you've got to consider that there's a lot of small pieces going into this, so you have to balance that on what the final price would be. It's a nice looking thing, it would be great to have this on display. I think that the likes of that landscape photography set is probably going to just be easier for them to do, less expensive pieces involved, etc. It's going to stand more of a chance. So in that respect, I don't think that this would be picked. But it's definitely a strong contender. Again, exactly the sort of thing that I can see them choosing as the next ideas set. So I doubt it will win. I don't think it will, but I do suspect that it's probably on their shortlist, one that they'll be looking at quite closely. Next up, we have Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and this is a beautifully designed set. It's, there's a lot of thought and attention that's gone into this from the designer. I love the fact that also the amount of pieces is the same year that it was actually released. Little things like that. I really like that attention to detail. I think it's fantastically done. And it's a really good looking set. Again, the problem with this is you have to know the show. I mean, it was extremely long running, going from the 60s all the way through to, the new millennium. I think it was 2001 when this finished. So there are an awful lot of people who are going to know this, but especially, I'm going to say, younger fans. It doesn't mean to say young Lego fans, but younger fans aren't probably going to have as much of a connection with this. I think just, again, in that regard, it's a little bit too specific. Lego aren't probably going to want to choose something like this because they're limiting just, the commercial viability of it. How many people are going to buy the set? That's just naturally going to be one of the questions that they're asking. A pretty important question. So I really like it. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I think the designer has done an absolutely, super job. I want to call that out. But just looking at this, dispassionately again, I really cannot see Lego choosing this. My prediction, which of course could be completely wrong, and again, let me know what you think in the comments, but my prediction is this just isn't going to be properly considered. We then come on to City Burger, and again, it's a really nicely designed looking building. Unfortunately, we don't have that many images on here for it. Probably one that Lego aren't going to choose. I like the fact that we've got the sort of underground railway going through there. A little bit of a nod for train fans, but unfortunately, it's not that much. As far as buildings go, being done as a corner can always be quite useful when putting it into a city setup. I just, again, personally think that there are other submissions that are quite a bit stronger than this. So I don't think that this one, again, is going to be chosen. We then move on to the Jumanji game board, and I just absolutely adore the original film with Robin Williams. He just is, was a shining light, is one of the best people for me. And I also really like the follow-up ones, of course, starring the likes of Dwayne Johnson. This is based off of the original. It's been detailed quite nicely, close to that original board. The designer admits themselves they've done it in a fairly simplistic way to try and appeal more to younger Lego fans and make them want to build it, which actually, for something like this, I think is the right decision. And it's still got a good amount of details going for it. I think it would be a fantastic thing to have on display. And of course, having great fun playing with. So I can hear the jungle beat as I look at this. Those drums pounding. It's the sort of thing that I would very happily buy in a heartbeat. And again, my biasness in that respect starts to get in the way because I think I have to apply the same logic to this as I have on, previous sets, particularly ones that haven't appealed to me as much, and say that I doubt Lego would do this. There are other submissions that are, more strongly aligned with what we've seen them choose in the past, and I think probably better sets overall. Whilst I doubt that they will choose it, I really like this set. I think it's a brilliant idea, really well done. Then we've got another one for Taylor Swift, and good grief, I mean, how many different minifigures of her do you want? I know it's a costume change, but come on, that's an awful lot. Look, I skipped over the other ones, I grouped them together, so I think it's unfair if I now give this, sole attention. I'm just going to say the same thing as I did for those. Whilst there's absolutely no doubt that this would have huge popularity, and Lego are going to have to pay attention to the amount of submissions there have been and the amount of support each of them has had, getting agreements behind the scenes on it, what the pricing would be, how they've been stung in the past over other not dissimilar sets that they've done, I don't think that they would choose it. Then we've got ourselves another Muppet Theater, and I've got to be honest, I much prefer this to the previous one. I just think the level of detailing that's gone into this is much nicer. I prefer it considerably as a set. Where the previous one I wasn't particularly bothered about because, as I said, I've already used, the Friends set to make up my own one and use the CMF figures. If this was produced, the level of detailing that is in it, I just think it looks fantastic and I would absolutely buy it. Now, again, same problem. I think we've already had the CMF series. Whilst it would be fantastic to get some additional characters that we haven't had before, I'm not sure whether LEGO would actually revisit this. Definitely not off the table, and so popular, and with licensing agreements already in place with Disney, it wouldn't be that difficult to do. Not entirely sure what the piece count is on this one. I doubt that they'll choose it, same reasons as I gave when we looked at the last one, but personally for me, I do much prefer this, and if they did make it, I would buy it in a flash. Then we have another one for the Artemis Rocket. Well, again, unfortunately we can't spend much time on this. Designer's done a lovely job, but guess what? LEGO are releasing their Artemis 1 rocket and Launchpad as the icon set in just a couple of weeks' time, so they are not going to be choosing this. We then have another one for Disney's Phineas and Ferb and Doofenshmirtz Evil Inc. Again, as I said before, this is one that bypassed me, so I don't know it personally. I didn't like the previous build. I think it's quite fun in minifigure form. This is probably a bit more of a fun design, in my opinion, but just too specific. I think that LEGO, when they're choosing idea submissions, want to go for things that have a broader sweep, that are going to be appealing more to just a general, wider audience rather than things like this. You know, I'm not disputing that obviously there will be fans of this, but it's just too specific. Then we move on to this snowy morning in the countryside, and wow, I really like this. It reminds me in the shaping of the witch's cottage that we've seen as an idea submission before, which I absolutely adored. And this is fantastic. I love the building. The way that the snow's been done as well is just super. I think this is an absolutely brilliant design. I really do. I would love to have this. And again, don't think that they'll do it. Scaling goes pretty well with the likes of the Hocus Pocus cottage and probably the medieval blacksmith even that they did. So I definitely wouldn't rule it out on that basis. It's just being a winter scene. I think they're going to go for something that isn't season specific. But you know what? If I'm wrong about that, I won't be sorry, because this is just absolutely brilliant. Moving on though, we come to Venice, and this is one again I think stands a pretty good chance of being in their shortlist, because obviously Venice being such an iconic and romanticised place that many people have been to, and even if you haven't, you know, who hasn't heard of Venice? It'd be really cool to get this in a LEGO build, and I think this has been done nicely. Good amount of details, decent size, if anything a little bit too big. Not overall, this is just about right, but it's got 3,000 pieces to it, which again makes me just question exactly what the price would be on something like this. I do think that they would consider doing it though. A lot of fans of LEGO would want this, and it would also appeal to people who have perhaps never bought a LEGO set before but have fond memories of Venice or just would like something to represent it. So a lot of commercial appeal, I think, to this one. Then we have the Kerbal space program and modular ship system. Again, space related. Don't think that LEGO are going to choose it. Shame, because a lot of time and effort's clearly gone into it. Good amount of detail throughout here. I think it probably has a wider range of appeal compared to some of the others that we've seen before. But I stick by what I've said earlier. I do think that they're not going to choose anything space related for the ideas set. Now then, we come to one of my personal favourites, the sea turtle. This is simply stunning. At least I think so. The attention to detail that's gone into here, the parts usage, the colours is, I'm just going to say, simply beautiful. You know, this is a beautiful LEGO model. It transcends the bricks themselves. It really is something special. As I mentioned earlier, there have been rumours that LEGO have got marine-based things, a bit along the lines of how they did the insect collection, you know, in the pipeline. Those are just rumours. They may be false, and even if they were true, there's certainly nothing of this scale. So I still don't think that it should disrupt this. It's not a bad size. What was it? 1,200 pieces? Yeah, 1,218 pieces. So it's not going to be too expensive. Yes, a lot of them are smaller pieces on top, but you know, we've got some decent sized ones underneath. The pricing shouldn't be too outrageous. There's some lovely movement for the flippers and the head as well. I just think this would make for an absolutely stunning display piece. Absolutely brilliant. Also, the beauty of this, again, not being based on a particular, IP that's going to require LEGO to get licensing, should make this really quite cheap to produce, and also that, you know, they should be able to sell this at a really good price point. So that's all big ticks in its favour. I think it would appeal to, again, quite a wide range, because whilst it may have fewer people who are really, loving it as opposed to some of the other sets, it just has a much broader sweep of people who would look at this and go, well, actually, that's a really nice, interesting display piece. My thoughts are that this stands a very strong chance of being in the shortlist of ones that the review board are considering doing. Whether it would win out or not over, a couple of the others that we've seen and still to come is the big question. But for me, I think it's fantastic. I really, really do. So full credit where it's due to the designer, because this is awesome. Then, staying on the subject of things that are awesome, we come to Mary Poppins. And this is a set that definitely is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I mean, it absolutely deserves to be in Lego. Funnily enough, before I'd seen that this had been a Lego Ideas submission, a few months back I did a video on upcoming big movie anniversaries that Lego should do sets on. Some of them they, in fact, are. But it's the 60th anniversary of the Mary Poppins film, here in 2004. Now, because of that, it's a little bit of a shame, because really this submission should have come earlier, the review should have come earlier. They can't, choose this and make it in time for the 60th anniversary, which is when it would have made perfect sense to have this set. In that regard, the fact that Lego haven't already done it themselves off of their own backs, in time for that anniversary makes me think that they're not going to choose this. I'm just thinking sensibly, if they were going to do it, why wouldn't they have already done it? So I doubt that we're going to see it. Again, it would also be not unreasonable, but probably a fairly expensive set, just given the size of it and the licensing. So doubt that we would see it. Big shame though, because, absolutely Mary Poppins should be in Lego. We then come on to the Tesla Centre, and I mean, come on. I think Elon Musk's probably got enough money. He doesn't need an extra cut from Lego sales as well, does he? It's a fun concept. If you're a fan of cars, and if you're a fan of Tesla in particular, you're going to be interested in this. But obviously, if you aren't a fan of those things, then there's going to be no appeal to this set whatsoever. And in that respect, I just think that it's too specific, and therefore one that isn't going to be seriously considered by the review board. We then come on to this Stud Lane Book Nook, and again, really nice design, very cleverly done, a lot of detail going on in here. Sort of thing that I really like, but I mean, I do have bookshelves, but I think that there aren't a huge amount of people that do actually have books on display anymore. Not that you have to, obviously, to display this, but I think it would look great alongside them. So just a really good looking design and a neat looking idea. I just have to question how many people, again, it's going to appeal to. It appeals to me, but that really doesn't mean anything. There's a lot of people this won't do anything for. So a bit too specific, I fear, not going to be chosen, but for what little it's worth, I like it. We then come on to this Chessmaster, which seems far too clever for its own good. I do like quite a few of the chess sets that Lego have done. I can't say that this one is gripping me particularly. I don't like the way that it's been designed. And it's clearly taking some inspiration from Big Bang and 3D chess or 4D chess or whatever, because, I mean, the amount of stuff that's going on here is frankly complicated to my poor little brain. That looks like it would be very, very confusing. So I am a fan of Lego. I'm a fan of chess, and I like quite a lot of the chess sets that Lego have done in the past. And indeed, there is another Lego chess set coming out, I think, later this year. But for me, sorry to say, don't like this. Apologies, but just the way it goes sometimes. So I wouldn't be bothered if they made it, and I really don't think that they would. It just looks, frankly, really convoluted and confusing. I'm a man of small brain, and I don't like things that confuse me. It's probably why I like so little. Anyway, the A-Team Double Heat. Now, I pity the fool who doesn't like this set. I mean, come on, it's just really cool. Again, A-Team in Lego, fantastic idea. A lot of fans, perhaps a little bit too specific again to be chosen, because equally there's going to be a lot of people who the A-Team means nothing to. I think there's a little bit of an age barrier behind it. For me, I think it's fantastic. Absolutely love to see it done. Love it when a plan comes together. Not sure if this particular one will. It does stand a chance. It certainly, without doubt stands a chance. Again, always that question of coming to agreements behind the scenes when it comes to licensing things like this. But, we've obviously seen plenty of things in the past where agreements have come together absolutely fine. This could well be one of them. Okay, the Lego microscope. I mean, come on. This is just brilliant. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I am a nerd, perhaps not a particularly intelligent one, but I am a nerd nonetheless, and this is right up my street. It's just fantastic. I would adore them to make this into a set. I would get a rather ridiculous amount of pleasure out of having this on display, and yeah, looking at the different slides through it, it's such a cool idea. It's certainly not out there either. I mean, bear in mind some of the things that Lego have done in the past, even the retro radio or gramophone that's coming out soon. They do slightly odd, well not odd, but random things sometimes. So I wouldn't be surprised if they choose this. I think, again, let's face it, it's going to have a huge amount of support. A lot of people would buy it. Is it a bit too specific? Probably. In all fairness, probably wouldn't sell as well as some of the others that have been put up for review, but I don't think it would do too badly, and it is such a cool concept. Great looking thing. I don't know. I'm probably being swayed again. I'm probably being biased because it's right up my alley and I think it's fantastic. In all honesty, I really don't think that it would do that badly if they made this. So whilst it probably wouldn't win out in the review, I think it's a very strong contender. I suspect that they are probably considering it pretty dang strongly. Moving on now, though, we come to Krusty Krab and, yes, SpongeBob in Lego. We've seen it before, so we could very well see it again, and this is an excellently designed set. Lots of colours, lots of detail, appeals to a wide range of audiences and age ranges, so I think this would be a very popular choice. Whether or not they wish to return to this particular subject matter is the big question. Probably not, I suspect. So again, I don't think that this will be chosen. But it's very deserving of the support that it received because it's just been brilliantly done. We then come on to the Very Hungry Caterpillar. And in fact, it is making me hungry because I'm now thinking of caterpillar cake. I do think this would be a really good one. It'd be a great way to get young kids into Lego. It's not going to be too hard to put together. Something that can be used as a learning tool. All that said and done, I do feel like Lego Ideas is really based more at AFOLs. I doubt that a juniorized set would probably get through. That's not to say that adults aren't a fan of The Hungry Caterpillar. I remember those books from when I was a kid. I think that it's a cool idea. Just very much doubt that it would ever get chosen by Lego as an Ideas set. Now then, we come on to the working canal lock, and this is a very clever build. Wow, a lot of attention to detail that's gone into this. And the fact that you can actually make the gates open and close as well adds an extra layer of brilliance to this. I really like it. I think the problem with this, again, it's basically 3,000 pieces, including minifigs, but that's not including any motorization parts, because this can have power-up functions applied to it. Well, again, that makes for a big set, and there's a lot of pieces that are going to go into this. I think it could become quite expensive. So probably, again, not one that Lego's going to choose. I am pretty blown away, though, by the detail that's gone into this. I would really like to be able to get to the stage where I could design something like this. There's no way that I could at the moment, and I freely admit that. So I take my hat off to designers who do. I think it's brilliant. I don't think it'll be chosen. Or let me say this, if it was chosen, because actually the subject is one that I think Lego could quite easily do. The problem is I think that it would be made smaller. Less pieces, quite possibly even lose the movement functions, or else lose the ability for motorization completely, really simplify it down, which unfortunately would probably spoil this. So anyway, I just think that this, unfortunately, in its current form, wouldn't be suitable, and Lego would change it in a way that would probably ruin it. That's not to say, though, that it's not deserving of being chosen, because I think it very much is. Now on to this one, the Lego Anatomy. This is good fun. It's just really, really funny. I like it very much as a design, and if Lego have a good sense of humour, which occasionally they do show off, this would be a pretty awesome one for them to choose. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I think quite a few people would buy this. I think they'd find it funny. It'd be a good thing to have on display. Certainly not for everybody, though. So again, perhaps commercially it wouldn't be one that Lego would think of choosing. So I'm quite interested to know on this one. Would you buy it? Would you not? I feel that it's one that would very much split opinion. For that reason, yeah, I don't think Lego are going to choose it, but I do think it's funny. Moving on, we come to this, the desktop rock and roll jukebox. And wow, I think this is brilliant. whoever's designed this, you've done something absolutely brilliant here. Really captured something. I think that this is the sort of thing Lego, again, would very well consider. I'm going to use the retro radio / gramophone that's, we've been waiting for to come out as a good example. This is the sort of thing, again, I can see them doing. It would be brilliant as any set, but again, one as well that would work pretty good as a Lego Ideas. It's not based off of any particular model of jukebox, so again, shouldn't be too difficult for them to do. The pricing on it shouldn't be terrible. Piece count wise, 1,280 pieces, decent size overall, but yeah, it shouldn't be too bad, I don't think, commercially. Would make pretty good sense for the pricing, and I think it would sell well. I mean, I know I'd buy this in a flash. I think a lot of people would as well. So whilst, again, perhaps it doesn't appeal to the widest range of people, again, younger fans, let's be honest, some people aren't even going to know what a jukebox is, but for those of us who do remember them, I think this is brilliant. I would really like to see it done. I don't think that it's too difficult. Obviously, very clever design, but I mean, I don't think it's too difficult to translate for Lego to actually put into a set. So stands a good chance. Probably not going to win out overall because some of the other ones we've looked at probably just have more of a mass general appeal, but that's not a reason to write this off. Things like the Lego typewriter, that doesn't have a mass appeal. I love it. A lot of people wouldn't. Well, the same will go for this. So, I think that this could very well be one that they're looking at. Brilliant, brilliant idea. We then come on to this, the Stray Kids Ordinary Maniac, and I'm just going to come out and say that I don't think this, unfortunately, stands a chance of being chosen. We only have to look at the BTS Dynamite set that Lego did to see how poorly it actually sold. They're going to be really put off of doing anything even remotely similar. I know that you can't really compare bands before people jump on me in the comments over that, but you do sort of have to compare the concept. And because that's what Lego's going to look at. And considering how poorly that previous set did in sales, there's no way that they're not going to draw a parallel here. They have to commercially. So I just do not see any chance of them taking a risk on this set. They wouldn't do it. So it's not to say that it's not been well done. I think, again, credit where it's due. A lot of time and effort's gone in by the designer, but I do not see Lego taking a risk on this. So I'm going to say this won't be chosen. Okay, next up we have this, the Moon Palace, and just reading what the designer has to say about it, I'm led to understand that this is to do with Japanese legend, one that I wasn't familiar with before, but I don't think that matters because just looking at this, wow, what a wonderfully designed set. Again, it's just one that I think is beautiful. The colours and details that have been used here are simply stunning. So apparently from the back it's designed for play, which, yes, it looks like it would be fun to do that with if you're that way inclined, or for younger fans, but just from the front, I think that is, wow, really nice display piece. Again, quite different from anything that we've seen before. Wouldn't look out of place though next to the tranquil gardens, that sort of thing. It's just a very pretty, well thought out set. I didn't expect to like this. When I saw the little thumbnail, I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to like that. Then I've clicked into it and looked at it properly, and you know what? This is really appealing to me. Not the sort of thing that I would usually go for in Lego, but actually beautifully done. And the sort of thing, again, I can see them choosing as a set because it's not hugely out there, but it is different, would have quite a wide range of appeal in that regard. So definitely one I suspect that they would strongly consider. And yeah, I like this a lot. I think it's really, really good looking. Then we come to the James Webb Telescope, and unfortunately I don't think this stands a chance. Again, we have actually seen this, albeit much smaller in detail in a Lego set before, and if they were going to do it, in its own dedicated set, it would be something that Lego would do, probably under the Technic line, under their own theme, in conjunction with NASA. They're not going to do this as a Lego Ideas set, I'm sorry. I really cannot see that happening. Now we come to Steve Irwin and the Majestic Crocodile. And I do think that the Crocodile Hunter here deserves to have his own Lego set. Absolutely brilliant. I adored watching his programs. He was simply fantastic. And I think this is a wonderful little homage to that. And not just that, but also a really well thought out, detailed, good set. It's the sort of thing, actually, they should make this and they should do it for 2026 because that would be the 20th anniversary of his death. And I think that would be a really nice tribute, actually. So I don't know if this would get chosen for this round, but do you know what? If it isn't, I think the designer should resubmit it, in time for that 20th anniversary because this is a really nicely thought out set. I think he deserves to have one paying tribute to him, and it would look brilliant on display as well. No shadow of a doubt about it. I would definitely buy it. I think a lot of other people would as well. It's not going to be too big. It's going to be a reasonable price point and would be a very, very popular LEGO Ideas set. So I do think this stands a good chance. And all I can say is if it doesn't get chosen, the designer should not give up and definitely resubmit this because it's fantastic. Okay, next up, Harry Styles' Love on Tour. I don't think this is going to be chosen, plain and simple for the reasons that I've stipulated before. Even if they do choose to do something along these lines, I think LEGO would probably have to go with Taylor Swift instead, just simply because there's been so many more submissions, so much more support for that. Commercially, it would seem to indicate to them that would make more sense. That's, of course, not to say that Harry Styles isn't popular. I suspect one or two people may have heard of it. I just really don't think that any of the sets like this are going to be ones that they choose. That's just where my head's at with this. It's probably the one that causes me the most difficulty, this and the Taylor Swift ones. I can really see an argument both ways for it. And I'd be interested to know what you think in the comments below because it's kind of a hard one to call. It could very easily go either way. I'm coming down on the side of thinking they're not going to do it. Next up, we've got the mechanical flip calendar. And look, plain and simple, I really like the idea. I like the design. I think it's been done nicely and it's really cool to actually have a working calendar in LEGO. Here's the thing, they've already done it. Okay, we've got the Festival New Year calendar, which whilst, isn't an accurate representation of one like this is, personally, I think being a lot more colourful is a prettier set to have on display. And it serves its purpose as a perpetual calendar. Therefore, quite frankly, I don't think that we need this one, and I don't for a moment think that LEGO would choose it. Now we come on to one for Billie Eilish, and it's Happier Than Ever. And you by now know my thoughts on the music-related ones. The design itself is really nice. We obviously thought we were going to be getting a retro radio coming out. There's been plenty of other vintage radio idea submissions. It's now looking like it's going to be a gramophone instead of a retro radio. So the possibility's still open. I just don't think that they're going to do this. Sure, it is different enough with obviously all the detailing on the inside. But for the reasons that I've already given, I, again, don't feel that this is going to be one that stands a chance. I don't feel that this is one that is going to be chosen. I mean, for one thing, LEGO are sort of opening themselves up. If they choose, Harry Styles over Taylor Swift or one of them over this or vice versa, it's going to make a whole lot of people unhappy. So, I don't know. I think they're a little bit between a rock and a hard place. Now we have another Pink Palace from Coraline, and compared to the previous one, it's almost the reverse. I prefer the roof here. I think the roof is nice, whereas I didn't like it in the previous one. That said, the previous one we looked at, I felt had a lot better detailing around the bottom than this one here. So I'd almost like to combine the two. The interior detailing on this one is probably better. But ultimately, I do stand by what I said before. Although there are going to be a lot of fans of this, it's just perhaps a little bit too specific because for anybody who is not a fan of the subject matter, are they going to want to buy a big pink Lego house? Some, yes. Others, no. So thinking of the commercial viability of this, are there going to have been other submissions during this review period that are going to stand out to LEGO as having better saleability? I think there will be, and therefore they're not going to choose this. Then we come on to the Galley of Warriors. Now, I have covered this in the medieval video because for some reason LEGO have classed this under the medieval theme, which is strange. Although I know with some changes, you could obviously turn this into more the likes of an Anglo-Saxon ship, but quite frankly, this is more Roman, Egyptian sort of styling. It has some really fantastic detailings to it, and I'm always keen to get extra Lego ships. I really like them. And I know I'm not alone in that, so there is definitely a fan base for this. I think LEGO will know that as well. It's been really nicely put together. The designers thought this through very well. I don't think that it would require too many pieces. It's not going to be too big, too small. It's the sort of thing that LEGO could, tweak around to be a reasonable price point. It's going to be a great display piece. So I suspect that this is in their sort of shortlist for ones they're seriously considering. Now, with all that in mind, we come on to Camelot, the Knights of the Round Table. I also covered this in the medieval video we looked at the time. I asked the question, were there fans of the show? And a lot of people have come back saying, yes, they're huge fans, especially in Canada and France. But again, it does, I suppose, come down to whether you know and love the TV show. I had never seen this show, so whilst I would adore a set based off of Camelot as it is in Arthurian legend, the idea of a spoof off of the TV series doesn't mean anything to me personally. So in that regard, I don't really mind whether they choose this or not. But by the sound of it, a lot of people really love the idea. And if Lego are good at their market research, which is questionable at times, but if they are, then they'll know that. And I think this will then stand a pretty good chance. The thing is, it does combine the medieval aspect, which naturally Lego knows they have a huge fan base for. If they can work out the licensing arrangements with this, we could still see it. I still question whether it's a little bit too specific, and also with the other castle themes that they have been releasing lately and what we've been getting and are going to get in the Bricklink Designer program. Are they going to choose anything that is medieval related? I sort of don't think that they will, so I'm suspecting that this isn't going to be chosen. Moving on, we come to our rainforest frogs, and again, I think this is one that stands a very good chance of being strongly considered. Fits in very nicely in conjunction with the likes of the insects that we've seen, and of course the botanicals collection. I think it would be very popular, nicely designed, would make for a really cool display piece. I think it will naturally split opinions because those like myself who really like botanicals are going to like this, whereas obviously all those who don't, it's pretty much going to mean nothing. But if you follow that frame of logic for far enough, you can apply it to absolutely any set. I think that this does appeal to a wider range of people. It's not too big, it's not too small. It fits in with some of their existing lineup without being too close to any of it. I think the main question for me is whether Lego would look at this and actually think that it's, a good idea, but something that, again, they release themselves rather than it being an ideas set. Just saying, that could happen. But if it doesn't, then I do think this stands a very good chance of being selected. What stands an even better chance, though, I think, is this, the Sequoia tree. Again, without having to fall under any particular licensing, it should be something that doesn't cost a huge amount to produce and should come in at a good price point. Even so, it's got some nice detailing throughout and would go fantastically alongside a lot of other landscapes and builds that people have mocked together. Whether you're going to put this on an outskirt of a city or maybe the upcoming jungle lineup, I'm just thinking there's a lot of places that this could actually go. It's a really nice idea, very well done. I think the downside is possibly the size, because although it's really good, I do like it. I think perhaps the cabin should have been slightly bigger. As it is, though, this is already basically 3,000 pieces, and again, that is quite big. I think that it would need to be reduced in size, not by much, just by a bit, but it should still work out reasonably price-wise. I mean, price per piece on something like this should actually be really very reasonable. It's a bit of a safer bet. I think, again, would appeal to quite a wide range of fans. It's difficult because it's definitely not my favourite, and I suspect it's probably not a lot of people's favourite. And just to clarify, that's nothing against it. I do really like it, and it obviously has a huge amount of support. I'm just saying that I think a lot of people would probably be a lot more passionate about other specific set. However, whilst it may not top a lot of people's lists, it's, going to be a very comfortable second or third. And, if that applies to a much wider range of people, it's going to be a lot easier for Lego to sell. So I, again, suspect that this is one that they would strongly consider with a few changes. We then come on to the Working Log Flume, another one by Baron von Baron. And again, I'm a big fan of this. I think it's brilliant. I would love to get it motorised and to have it going round and round. It does bring back memories of going to the amusement parks, and this would be one of my favourite rides. I think it probably would be for a lot of people as well. It's just something that looks really good on display and has fantastic playability as well. We've seen quite a few roller coasters. This is something different, but it's also fun. And you certainly should be able to use this continuously a lot more reliably than the likes of Lego's Loop Coaster, which was just, although impressive, far too big and therefore kept going wrong if you had, if you were using it continuously. That said and done, whilst this isn't your typical roller coaster, I still think that Lego would be hesitant on actually doing anything like this. It's purely for that reason I suspect that it's not going to be chosen, but again, it's a real shame because I'd love to see this. I really, really would. Again, I would buy it straight off the bat. But anything that does involve, the mechanical elements, and particularly ones that have the option for motorization, are going to have to be considered a lot more shrewdly by Lego. And in that respect, I think, sadly, they will pass over this one. Now then, on to the penultimate one, and it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And, first and foremost, the designer's done a really nice job here. This is an extremely colourful set that's got lots of little details spread throughout. I think this would be a very popular one. It's going to just be super fun to actually have on display. And the fact that it has the motorization option as well is just super. I think this is one that it would just purely come down to licensing, really, behind the scenes stuff as to whether it would be viable to do. Obviously quite a few pieces having to go into this, so it's just all those little things. The set itself is great and can very easily be chosen. It's just, what would Lego have to do? What would they have to change in order to make this viable as a set? Is it fine as it is, or would they need to make it smaller, use different parts? What exactly would they have to do, along with making a deal behind the scenes, to actually turn this into a set? I think a lot of people would buy it, that's probably without doubt. So I suspect that it is one that they're strongly considering. I guess for me it's just a gut feeling that it's not one that's going to be chosen. But whereas a lot of them that we've looked at, I can sort of say with confidence no, and give a real reason as to why it wouldn't be, this one is definitely possible. I don't think it'll happen, but it is definitely possible. And here we are at the last one, our forest base. And there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that this would be hugely popular. It's one that Lego could easily produce and be fairly confident is going to sell extremely well. The Forestmen do deserve a big base. The GWP that we got from them recently was obviously nice, but nothing like this. Now, that said and done, I do prefer the one that's been chosen as a Bricklink Designer Series 3 finalist. Our Forest Stronghold here, just personally for me, is one that I think offers a lot more playability and looks better on display as well. But again, that is just personal preference. It's not to take anything away from this because, again, it's been done really, really well. And almost too well in the sense of the details. I wonder, again, if Lego did make this, whether all of those would make it through to the final set or whether some of them will be cut. And that's a real shame because this has been thought out really nicely. Now, it comes with 2,740 parts, which isn't unreasonable. I can see them probably cutting it back maybe to around 2,500 pieces. But otherwise, we know that there are a lot of medieval fans out there. I am one of them. People would love to get a big forest base for the Forestman faction. I know I would. It will really come down to whether Lego are wanting to do another fairly big set as their next chosen Lego Ideas project. Whether they're going to go with one of the previous ones that I've shouted out as, being a bit smaller and therefore perhaps a little bit more sensible. I still think that that could be the case. But overall, if there is going to be one that they're going to do, that they're going to be swayed towards, it's probably this, because it's a fantastic set that's brilliantly designed. I don't think a huge amount of changes have to be made to it, and they must know that it's going to be commercially viable because, of course, so many people would want this. Will they be swayed by the likes of the Bricklink sets that we've already had and the ones that are coming up? That could be something to consider. Because of that, they may decide that actually they're not going to do this. That's the main thing in my mind that's going against it at the moment, because otherwise this is definitely one of the front runners. But there we go. That brings us to the end of all of the ideas that are currently in review. Now, please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. I've given you mine. Let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. And of course, please consider liking and subscribing. The next video is going to be on the sets that are currently lined up for the 2024 May review. So we will be taking a look at those and I'll give you my thoughts on those as well. For these, it shouldn't be too long until we find out the winner, but I do want to know what you think of them in the comments below. So let me know. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.